The Arizona Territory sun was dipping low when the dust began to shimmer like gold dust hanging in the air. The land stretched wild and endless, broken only by a lonely ranch, a few wooden fences, and the quiet breathing of cattle settling in for the night. Caleb Winston wiped his brow and leaned against the corral post, listening to the desert wind whistle through the dried grass. At 30, he'd grown used to silence, so much silence that sometimes it felt like a second person living in the cabin with him. His neighbors were a day's ride away and the nearest town even farther. Out here the world didn't come to you. If anything, it ran from you. Years ago his wife had died of fever, and after burying her, Caleb had stopped seeking connection. The land was all he had left, and he clung to it because it couldn't die on him like she did. He was about to go inside when he noticed movement at the far edge of his property. A figure, small, stumbling, bent forward, was making its way toward the ranch. Caleb narrowed his eyes. Out here, strangers weren't common and visitors were even rarer. He stepped down from the fence, rifle in hand, but pointed at the ground just in case. As the figure drew closer, he realized it was a young woman, barely more than a girl, her long black hair tangled, her clothes torn, her face streaked with dust and tears. She looked like she had walked through hell itself. When she finally reached him, she nearly collapsed. Caleb caught her by the arms, steadying her. Her skin was burning with sun exposure, and her breath trembled like someone who had run far, far beyond her strength. "I came begging for milk," she whispered in halting English. Please, I have nothing. I haven't eaten in 2 days." Her dark eyes glistened with desperation. Tears clung to her lashes, and she looked so fragile that for a moment, Caleb forgot the hard rules of the frontier. He forgot danger. He forgot mistrust. All he saw was a human being on the edge of breaking. "Easy," he said softly. "You're safe here. Come inside." She hesitated as if unable to believe him, but her legs trembled too much to resist. He led her gently into the cabin, sitting her by the wooden table. He poured warm milk into a tin cup and placed leftover cornbread in front of her. She ate like someone who had been starving for months, not days, and with every bite, her eyes softened and her shaking slowed. "What's your name?" Caleb asked once she caught her breath. "Leah," she said quietly. "My tribe, they were attacked. A man named Blackthorn, he wants our land. He burned our homes. I escaped, but," her voice cracked, "I ran without food. Without water." Caleb felt something twist in his chest. He'd heard of Blackthorn, every rancher, miner, and trader in the territory had. He wasn't just a gang leader, he was a man with no mercy. "You're safe here," Caleb said. "Nobody will hurt you." Her head lowered in gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know why you helped me." "Because you needed help," he answered simply. For the next 2 days, Leah slept more than she spoke. Caleb tended his cattle quietly, checking on her between chores. He brought water, dried meat, blankets, anything she needed. When she finally regained her strength, something changed in the cabin. It didn't feel so empty anymore. The silence didn't feel so sharp. On the 3rd day, she stood in the doorway while Caleb was fixing a saddle. "I want to help," she said. "You need rest." I rested. Now I work. There was no arguing with her firm tone. So Caleb handed her a broom, expecting her to tire quickly. Instead, she swept the entire cabin, dusted the shelves, mended a torn curtain, and even washed the dishes. She moved with purpose, with quiet dignity, like working helped anchor her in this new world. Later she joined him outside. She watched him milk the cows, studying his hands carefully. "Your way is good," she said, "but slow." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Slow, huh?" She laughed softly, the first time he heard her laugh. She knelt beside him and with quick, practiced movements she filled her pail twice as fast as he did. Caleb blinked in surprise. "I see," he said. "You're an expert." "My mother taught me," she replied, pride in her voice. Milk must be taken gently, like greeting an old friend. Caleb found himself smiling, something he hadn't done in years. And Leah smiled back, though her eyes still carried the shadow of loss. As the days turned into a week, life on the ranch shifted. Leah woke early helping with the cattle. She learned to cook with the ingredients Caleb had, and sometimes she hummed tribal melodies while grinding corn. He began to wait for her voice, for the soft sound of her feet on the wooden floor. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, she asked quietly, "You always live alone?" Caleb stared at the horizon. "My wife died 5 years ago. Since then, yeah, I've been alone." Leah lowered her gaze, her voice gentle. "Your heart, it still lives. It still gives." Her words hit him deeper than she could ever know. But peace didn't last forever. The next morning, while Caleb and Leah were collecting eggs from the chicken coop, the sound of horses thundered in the distance. Dust rose behind them like a storm. Leah stiffened, her breath catching. "It's them," she whispered. "Blackthorn's men." Caleb grabbed his rifle and pushed her behind him. The riders, 3 rough-looking men with leather vests and scarred faces, halted at the ranch gate. One of them raised his voice. "We're looking for a runaway native girl," he called out. "We know she passed through here." Caleb stepped forward, cold determination in his eyes. "There's no one here but me." The man sneered. "We'll see for ourselves." "No," Caleb said. "You won't." The men exchanged glances. Hands drifted toward holsters. The air tightened. Before Caleb could act, Leah stepped out from the shadows, tears in her eyes. "Take me," she said shakily. "Leave him." Caleb grabbed her hand. "Leah, no. I can't let them kill you," she whispered. One of the riders reached for her arm. A gunshot cracked like lightning. Caleb had fired without hesitation. The bullet struck the man square in the chest, sending him crashing off his horse. The other 2 jerked backward, startled. "You tell Blackthorn," Caleb growled, "that he'll have to ride through hell before he touches her." The riders fled, disappearing in a cloud of dust. Leah collapsed into his arms, trembling. "You could have died." Caleb held her tight. "I'd die before I let anyone take you." Everything changed after that. Leah stayed closer to him, not out of fear but trust. Caleb found himself watching her more often, how she braided her long hair each morning, how gently she handled the animals, how she brought a quiet, peaceful spirit to a place that had long been hollow. One afternoon, after a rare desert rain, she danced barefoot in the wet earth, laughing as the drops soaked her hair. Caleb stepped outside, stunned by the sight of her joy. "Come, Caleb," she called. "Rain is blessing." He stepped into the showering sky with her, letting the cool water wash over him. Leah grabbed his hands, spinning him clumsily through the mud. They laughed, really laughed, and something warm and alive bloomed between them. That night, sitting on the fence beneath the stars, Leah spoke softly. "My people say spirits guide the souls that must meet. Maybe they sent me to your door." Caleb took her hand, feeling her warmth. "Leah, stay with me. Not because you have nowhere else. Stay because I want you here." Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes. "I want to stay. With you." Caleb's voice trembled slightly as he asked, "Will you marry me?" Her smile was gentle as summer rain. "Yes, Caleb. I will." Their wedding was simple but honest. A traveling preacher blessed their vows. A rancher couple from 5 miles away served as witnesses. Leah wore a traditional tribal dress made of soft doeskin, decorated with beads that shimmered like desert stars. Caleb wore his cleanest shirt and hat, his eyes fixed on her like she was a miracle. They said their vows beneath open sky, hands clasped, hearts steady. And when they kissed, it felt like 2 broken worlds becoming whole. Life after marriage settled into a rhythm sweeter than either had known. Leah woke before dawn to grind corn or prepare breakfast. Caleb saddled the horses, repaired fences, and checked the herd. They milked cows side by side. Leah always finished first and teased him about it. "You're slow, Caleb." He grinned. "I'm slow because I'd rather watch you work." She blushed every time. Together they planted new crops, expanded the barn, and even built a small garden behind the cabin where Leah grew herbs from her tribe. The ranch, once silent and lonely, now rang with laughter, conversation, music, and warmth. Every night they sat on the porch, watching the desert glow silver under moonlight. Leah leaned her head on Caleb's shoulder and whispered, "I came begging for milk, but I found a life." Caleb wrapped his arm around her. "And I found my heart again." The land around them whispered with wind, carrying the promise of seasons to come. 2 souls, one running from sorrow, the other drowning in loneliness, had met by fate, survived by courage, and built a new world from the dust and heart of the Wild West. They worked together, lived together, and loved together in a place that once held only silence. And when the sun rose each morning, painting the ranch in gold, they greeted it hand in hand, partners, lovers, and the keepers of a home made stronger by everything they had overcome.